Data Science, a practical guide for beginners. Now, in today's session, we will be seeing about how to handle large volumes of data. So when I say that data science, where it comes into picture, so it mainly faces the problem of how to handle this large and quantum volumes of data. Okay, so in the first session, we will be seeing about what are the problems faced while handling the large amounts of data. So when you say it has a large volume of data, it poses so many challenges. So the main thing, the first and foremost problem is the overloaded memory. And sometimes the algorithms will keep on running and algorithms will never stop running. So it is mandatory that one should take care of the following issues, such as, so how is the relationship between the input and the output parameters, and also the CPU starvation, because these two details or these two attributes can cause, or they can increase, or they can lead to the speed issues. Now we will see one by one. So initially we will see what are the problems faced while handling the large data. Initially we will be seeing the problems, then the solution, then the tips. So as I told earlier, it could be, the first one is that not having enough memory. So a computer, if you could see, it has only a limited amount of RAM, right? So when we want to squeeze more data into this memory than the actual capacity, then the operating system will start swapping, right? And swapping out of the memory blocks to the disk. So the data will start moving from the memory blocks to the disk, which is quite far less efficient than having it in the memory itself instead of moving it to the disk. The second thing, okay, so the algorithm that never ends. So if you could see, a few algorithms are usually designed to handle the large data sets. Okay, but most of them, they load the whole data set into the memory at once, so which might result in out of memory error. So the next thing, some components form a bottleneck while the others remain idle. So the main thing is that, so whenever we are dealing with a large data set, so the computer will start to form a bottleneck while remaining the other system idle. So I've just posted a table here wherein the CPU is a component. Suppose let us take a example, real-time example of running complex machine learning models on a single end-threaded Python script. Whenever I want to run a complex machine learning model, so the disk and the RAM will be waiting for the processing to get complete. The next thing is RAM. Suppose if the data is too large, then it will cause a out of memory error. So at that time the CPU will be waiting for the data to load. Let us take a bioinformatics data where all the input parameters has to be loaded with. The next thing is, suppose if I want to analyze a large financial transaction log that is stored in a CSV format. So in that case, what is the bottleneck problem? It is nothing but, so the data has to be read and written from a large CSV file, which would take a larger amount of time. So CPU and RAM will be waiting for the data. So these two, CPU and RAM, will be the idle component. The next thing, suppose let us take an example of fetching a patient health record from a cloud-based EMR system. So when we want to fetch the patient health records, so there may be a slow transfer because we are getting the data from an external API, right? So at that time the CPU might remain idle. The last condition is not enough speed. So whenever you are going to have certain programs, so that don't feed the data fast enough to the processor. Okay. So in that case, what will happen? So they have to read from the hard drive. So whenever they are going to read the data from the hard drive, it is one of the slowest components in the computer. So these are the four concepts. Once, it might be not having enough memory. The second thing, some algorithms that never end, and some components will form a bottleneck while the other components will remain idle. The next one is not having enough speed. So in the next session, so we will be seeing about the solutions to handle these problems faced while handling the large data. Thank you.